Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me now? There you go. I didn't give the text person a good heads up that I was going to be talking. I'm so happy to have you all joining us this morning. I am the Reverend William Levwood, affectionately known as Rev Lev. My pronouns are he and him. I have the great privilege of being the minister here at Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. As we begin our service, if you're joining us in person, a reminder to silence your phones. And whether you're joining us in person or online, let's center ourselves for worship by taking a deep breath together.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Michelle Anderson. My pronouns are she and her, and I am so happy to be your Director of Spiritual Development for Children and Youth. We have a craftivity today on the theme of the service that you can also pick up during your Greet Your Neighbor time if you didn't already. Usually they're in bags, but today it's just a piece of paper describing our flower weaving and a cardboard flower with a string attached. I'll tell you what to do with it later.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Sheila Doles. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm happy to be your worship associate today. Welcome to Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. This congregation is a welcoming and inclusive spiritual home where we inspire each other to live our values. Together we care in community, grow in spirit, and act for justice. If you're new to Accotink and would like to talk more about this church, look around. Anyone with a cross-stitch name tag can tell is a member and would be happy to share with you about this congregation, about how you may join us on the journey. Of course, our minister, Reverend William Levwood, aka Rev Lev, would also be more than happy to speak with you. Whether you're a longtime member or a newcomer or something in between, we encourage everyone to stay for our social hour immediately after the service. We're so delighted that you've joined us today.
We have a very special service today. Not only is it our flower communion, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a moment, but it's our multi-generational service, which we have every month on the first Sunday of the month. That means that children and youth stay for the entire service rather than going to their spiritual development classes about 20 minutes into the service. And it also means that we design this service to be more interactive so that it keeps the children and the youth engaged. And adults like it too. While Sheila lights our chalice for us, I would like you to recite these words. They'll be on 3 slides. Love is the power that holds us together and as the center of our shared values. As an expression of the shared, we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Each other be good. Flower power, flower! 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 To the top! Every bloom is different, that's the power of the flower garden. Countless points of view, and that's the beauty of us all. One more time. Every bloom is different, that's the power of the flower garden. So I said I would tell you about the flower communion, which is all about the fact that every bloom is different, and that's the power of the flower garden. So in a moment, we're going to make our own flower garden. The Unitarian Universalist flower communion service originated in 1923. It was originated by Dr. Norbet Čapek, founder of the modern Unitarian movement in Czechoslovakia. On the last Sunday before the summer recess of the Unitarian Church in Prague, all the children and adults participated in this colorful ritual, which gives concrete expression to the humanity-affirming principles of our liberal faith. Now, when the Nazis took control of Prague in 1940, they found Dr. Čapek's gospel of inherent worth and beauty of every human person to be too dangerous, and he was set to Dachau. Does that sound familiar? People talking about the danger of the inherent worth and beauty of every person? May we remember Dr. Norbet Čapek and his flower communion and the sacrifices that he made, including offering up his life with this message of human hope that lives on through our flower communion. But before we have you come forward with your flowers, which I'm going to have you do in a moment, and there's two parts of the flower communion. The first is to bring them forward, and we'll get to the second part later on in the service. Michelle's going to help us lift up our volunteers.
So, just like all the flowers are needed to make a beautiful garden, all of our volunteers are needed to make a wonderful church. So I would like you, if you're a volunteer for our human resources, please stand. If you're a volunteer for our rentals, please stand. If you are a volunteer for our sacred circle dance, please stand. Stay standing. If you can. If you are a volunteer with our community events, please stand. If you are a volunteer with our women's book club, please stand. If you're a volunteer with the Accotink crafters, please stand. If you're a volunteer with our caring carters, please stand. If you are a part of our building and grounds committee, please stand. Some of them are standing already. If you are a part of our children and youth spiritual development, please stand. If you are a part of our denominational affairs, please stand. If you are part of Green Sanctuary, please stand. Or you can mention it also in the chat if you're online. If you're a part of our membership development committee, please stand. If you're involved with the memorials, please stand. If you're involved with social justice, and you're not already standing, please stand. If you're involved with True Accotink Colors, please stand. If you're involved with a finance committee, please stand. If you're involved with leadership development, please stand. If you're on the board of directors, please stand. If you're on the endowment committee, please stand. If you're on a program council, please stand, if you're not already. If you are part of the ministerial assessment, please stand. If you've worked on the auction, please stand. If you've helped out with the coffee, please stand. They're probably still back there.
Standing.
If you're on the communications committee, please stand. If you've worked with our gardening and landscape, please stand. If you are a greeter, please stand. If you are on our music committee, or just work, we don't have a committee anymore?
Choir.
Then just with the choir, please stand. If you've worked with pastoral care, please stand. If you've worked with the pledge drive, please stand. If you work with AV Tech and you're not already in the back, please stand. If you're an usher, please stand. If you are a worship associate, please stand. If you've worked with the Racial Justice Committee, which is now a part of social justice, please stand. If you work with immigration, please stand. I don't see Dean here. He's our head, so if you want to work with that one, see Dean. And if you've worked with our hospitality fellowship, please stand. Okay. We would like to thank all of you for all your hard work. Without you, we wouldn't have a church. Let's give all these volunteers a big round of applause. Thank you.
Actually, if you'll stay standing. Wow. Usually what I say goes over a little better than that. But, I also want those of you who brought a flower for the flower communion, meaning that either you have gifts still to give to this congregation and or your very presence here is already a gift, please stand. That should be everybody. And if you need a flower, we have some in the back. We're going to introduce Brianna Rains, who is our new congregational administrator. We are so happy to have her joining us. You will learn over the coming months all the wondrous things that she's going to bring. The slides and the new way that we're exploring those are something that she's brought to us already, as well as so many other quality improvements just in the 2 weeks that she's been working with us already. We're so excited to have her. And actually, Brianna is going, when Brad starts the music again, to put the first flower in to celebrate her joining us on this journey. And she'll be in the office after the service if you have any questions or you just want to say hello to her.
So, since Rev Love is talking about weaving new ways and it's flower communion, we have a weaving flower. So a starter yarn has been tied onto your flower loom. And your flower loom has spokes on it. See, almost like a flower wheel. What you're going to do, if you haven't already, is to weave your yarn over one of the spokes and under the next spoke. And then pull it through. Now it's kind of long because what's going to happen is it's going to create a circle inside of your flower. And you just continue over a spoke and under a spoke. And you're going to have little bits of flower tail that you can just leave there from the starter, and you will cover it as you go over and under. At some point, you will run out. Has anybody done it already? Yeah, you want to show yours? Just show it up for everybody. Yeah, so at some point, great, you'll run out of the starter thread or yarn. There's more yarn on the table where you got your flowers, these and the ones you put up here. And you can grab a different piece of yarn, attach it to this one, and keep going until you're all finished. Does that make sense? All right. Enjoy your flower weaving.
Our story this morning is two stories. We can have the slide that shows both of the books. There's a book called Abuela's Weave, and another called the Rainbow Weaver. You'll see the authors are listed in your order of service, as well as you can see them there on the slide. But I've woven, no pun intended, the two stories together into one story. If you enjoy that, then I'm glad. And if you don't blame these wonderful authors and illustrators. Esperanza knew the basics of weaving. All the children did. But Esperanza wanted to know more. So one day, she went to her abuela. "This weaving is too complex, mija, and I don't have any extra thread." So since she couldn't join in the weaving, Esperanza stayed and watched her grandmother. She stayed and watched for a long time. But hands want to move. So in time, Esperanza wandered away, weaving her way through plastic bags that litter the cloud forest of the village. And each day, she would return to watch her abuela, amazed by the bright colors and the story her grandmother was weaving, the journey of her people, the Mayan and Mestizo people of Guatemala, from the creation of the people from corn to the cultivation of corn, the coming of the Europeans, the resistance and revolution, all the way up to the present day. Again, she watched her grandmother for a long time, but hands want to move, so in time she wandered again through the mountain forest. But this time was different. This time, as she wove through the plastic bags littering the outskirts of the village, with the images from her grandmother's weaving filling her mind, she noticed how colorful the bags were. She picked one up, and frustrated that these bright colors have no story to tell, she began to tear the bag to pieces. Let's stay on this slide, Joe, okay? Stay on that one. And then she has a new thought. She wondered if she could weave something with these colorful strands. She wondered if even these plastic bags had a story to tell. So Esperanza started weaving and weaving and weaving, because once her hands started, it was hard to stop. The weaving felt so good. And after many days of weaving and weaving and weaving, she went to show those weavings to her abuela. "Oh, mija, so beautiful. You have a true gift, my child. This one looks like the ocean. And this one like the changing colors of the sky at sunrise and sunset. And this one, I see our forest and that flash of red. That flash of red, it's a bird, my child, a quetzal." "How did you know, abuela?" Esperanza asked. "I meant it to be a bird, but I couldn't make it look right." "What else would that flash of red be, my child, but the red belly of the quetzal?" "But I want to know how to weave real pictures, grandmother." "Ah, mija, that takes much practice. Here, sit. Watch me for a while." And again, Esperanza did, but now her hands would move sometimes, repeating the movements of her abuela's hands. And her grandmother was right. She couldn't weave a bird, not yet. But she knew she was learning, and that one day she would make the quetzal fly through the trees. Soon it was time to travel to the city to sell their weavings. Now her abuela had a birthmark on her face, and some people were superstitious and wouldn't buy from her. They called her bruja, witch, or worse. So Esperanza's grandmother told her she would have to sell all the weavings, that Esperanza would have to be the one. Not only Esperanza's new creations from the plastic bags, so colorful and bright, but also her grandmother's grand epic of the history of their people. They traveled by bus to the city, sitting far from each other in different seats. And as she walked through the city, Esperanza only caught glimpses of her grandmother, like the flash of a quetzal in the forest. And when Esperanza found a place to set up their weavings, she was surprised by how many people bought her small weavings, just as her abuela had predicted. You might not have stories to tell yet, mija, but there is the spirit of new creation in your hands. But it was her abuela's weaving that drew the best price. A gringo from the far north, from Estados Unidos, offered them the most money for it. But that's when her grandmother came close and whispered in her ear to sell it to the Guatemalan who offered just a little bit less. It felt right for abuela's weaving to go to someone who shared in their people's story. And as Esperanza handed abuela's weaving to the buyer, she noticed something she hadn't seen just the day before, when the weaving was nearly finished. There in the upper left corner, where the misty clouds almost touched the trees, there was a girl with a collection of plastic bags beside her, and she was weaving. And it looked as if she was holding a bird in her hands, about to take flight, a woven bird, her bird of the future.
Good morning. Morning. I'm Kate McDivitt. I'm a member of your AUC Board of Directors, and I'm genderqueer, so I prefer my name instead of pronouns, please. One thing I love about Accotink is our traditions that tie us to other UU churches and to the history of Unitarian Universalism, like our water communion and our flower communion, but also the traditions like the gratitude jar that are just ours. So, yay. Yay, traditions. Unitarian Universalist congregations are financially self-supporting communities, so we need you to give as you are able to this congregation through this offering and through annual pledging. We also have a minister's discretionary fund for anyone in financial need of support, and we exist in an interdependent community. We are joyful to share with our neighbors by supporting our outreach partners. Our May outreach partner is not mentioned here, but I believe it's Mamatodo Village. Yes, great. And there's no information here, but it's on the slide. Great. I'm going to go sideways. It is dedicated to the cause of justice and liberation by combating racism and health disparities for Black mothers, babies, and their families. So a good one for May, especially.
In our story, a child learns from her grandmother. She learns how to weave, and she also learns the history of her people. She sees the many twists and turns in that story, in that history of flourishing, interrupted by trauma and tragedy, but also hopelessness transforming unexpectedly into hope and new life. And that story, with its twists and turns, opens the child's mind to embracing possibilities. It awakens her curiosity, and she sees the world in a new way. She's open to new possibilities. She begins weaving in new ways with the plastic bags that were littering the forested countryside. Now, I want to give a little context of why we chose these stories, both of which are from Guatemala. Immigrants come to the U.S. from all over the world, but a significant number come from southern Mexico and Central America, including Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala, which are the ancestral lands of the Mayan people. countries where today the majority of people are mestizo, people of mixed indigenous American and European ancestry, as well as a large number of indigenous Americans as well. And as many of you know, there's been a crackdown on immigration in the US. This crackdown has lowered the rate of illegal immigration, but its biggest impact has been on legal immigration. It's estimated that illegal immigration has gone down from about 60,000 per month in 2024 to just under 12,000 per month in 2026. That's illegal immigration. Legal immigration, however, in the same period has gone down from nearly 200,000 per month to just over 50,000 per month. A reduction of about 130,000 legal immigrants who are no longer entering the US each month. And legal immigration by asylum seekers at the Mexico-US border is down by 99.9%, according to the Cato Institute. Many immigrants here in the States also live in fear, many hiding in the shadows like the grandmother in our story when the two traveled to the city. So I want to share that if you want to provide immediate help to immigrants, you can donate to Food Justice. Right now they're especially in need of diapers, infant formula, and menstrual pads. I went ahead and got some diapers and some menstrual pads and some formula from the store myself. So I wanted to lift that up and share. You know, I felt a little nervous. I was like, I don't know what sizes to get, what age for the infants, which kind of the many kinds of formula. But I figured I shouldn't let that stop me. And then when I hand in the donations, I can ask questions about whether next time I should bring more for a different age group or a different size. So I encourage you to also consider supporting Food Justice DMV in this way. We have a place to donate right by our west doorway, to my left, to your right. This Wednesday, I also attended the protest outside the Supreme Court. And while the Supreme Court was inside hearing arguments for and against revoking temporary protected status for immigrants from Haiti and Syria, we were gathered outside, where those communities and immigrants from other nations who the U.S. grants temporary protected status shared some of the gifts that they bring to the United States. Music from Haiti, from Syria, from Latin America, stories of the ways immigrants from different places have enriched our culture. It was a powerful testament and an important contrast to the demonization of these same cultures by our president. There are narratives today about how immigrants mostly bring crime to the U.S. But the truth is, immigrants, legal and illegal, commit less crimes than U.S. citizens who are born here. The truth is, immigrants bring the richness of their cultural heritage and the wisdom of their life experience to enrich our nation, like the grandmother's wisdom and the epic story in her weaving. The truth is, immigrants bring innovation and new ideas, like the child in our story, Esperanza, who found the new use for plastic bag litter, turning those ugly bags into beautiful weavings. So I want to talk about how we deal with this moment through the lens of an essay from Octavia Butler. Octavia Butler was a science fiction writer, a black woman writing in the 1970s and 80s when there were few published black science fiction writers. And there's also been a resurgence of interest in her work in recent years, fueled in large part by Adrienne Marie Brown, who used the wisdom of Octavia Butler's book, The Parable of the Sower, to create what she calls emergent strategy. Now, Adrienne Marie Brown's emergent strategy has been very influential within Unitarian Universalism in particular, especially among UUs of color. So I thought that we could look at another piece of Octavia's writing, her essay, A Few Rules for Predicting the Future, and see what wisdom it has for us today. So her first rule is to learn from the past. We saw that in the story with Abuela's weaving, sharing both the tradition of weaving and the stories of the past, the whole epic journey of a culture. Octavia Butler also talked about when she was writing the parable of the sower and the parable of the talents that she researched the rise of fascism in Germany to see how that could happen in our nation. This was in the 1990s that she wrote that book. So she does know a little bit about predicting the future. Her second rule, in addition to learning from the past, is to respect the law of consequences. I think we can also see that if we imagine the epic story of a culture chronicling the consequences of when this happened, then this other thing happened, and when this happened, another thing happened. Octavia Butler also tells a story in the essay about a doctor who offers, because she's having some negative side effects from a medication she's taking, he says, well, I can give you another medication to counter those side effects, and this medication has no side effects. And it wasn't that Octavia Butler didn't want to counter the first side effects. She was just skeptical about a doctor who claimed that there was a medication without any side effects. It didn't follow her law of consequences. When you do this, then some stuff, probably both positive and negative, is going to happen from whatever you do. I think actually plastic in our story is a good example of this as well. For example, you can make buckets out of plastic. We'll talk more about buckets and other containers next week. And those buckets are lighter than pottery. So for people who have to travel long distances to get clean water, plastic is a real blessing in the form of those buckets. But plastic in the form of single-use plastic bags is a major issue environmentally, and particularly in places like Guatemala, where it is literally littering the countryside. So we can see that we need to learn from the past and respect the law of consequences. And we also, the third rule is to be aware of your perspective. So I wanted to share that when Donald Trump was elected president the first time, I was shocked. I'm embarrassed to admit that when my spouse of the time came to me at 1 a.m, I think it was, and said, Trump is going to win, I said, oh, no, it's just the early returns, don't worry. Yeah, little mansplaining there. She went to bed. I got up and looked and found out that she was right, and I didn't sleep another wink that night. But I think I was so shocked because of the privileged life that I've lived. I heard stories about people in Portland being especially shocked, and I was like, yeah, that's the bubble I grew up in, a liberal bubble like Portland. So I didn't believe that could happen. Whereas my spouse at the time, who was raised Southern Baptist here in Virginia, she could see how Donald Trump could be elected. And a lot of other people from less privileged backgrounds could see how that could happen. So that's one example from my experience of how we need to be aware of our perspective when we're thinking about predicting the future and what might come next. Now, it'd be easy to give up in this moment, to look at what's happening in the present, especially the bad stuff, or even just the negative side effects of the good stuff, and give up. And there's an article in an archive somewhere detailing how Octavia Butler herself did just this. After giving a talk at a university, a student reporter came up to her and asked, what's the answer to all the problems you predict in your books will happen in the future? And Octavia replied, there isn't one. This was the end of the article. It seems like even Octavia Butler lost hope. Except for the fact that while this was the end of the article, it wasn't actually the end of the conversation with the reporter. Because in the actual conversation, after Octavia said there isn't one, the student reporter replied, "So we're just doomed?" "No," Octavia said. "I mean there is no single answer that will solve all of our future problems. Instead, there are thousands of answers at least, and you can be one of them if you choose to be." So I'm going to end with a quote from Octavia. She says, "Why, at the end of the essay, why try to predict the future at all if it's so difficult, so nearly impossible? Because of the law of consequences, because you might be wrong in your perspective, even if you're learning from the past. But you can count on the surprises." I forgot to say that's the fourth of the rules. Like the surprise of Esperanza discovering how to weave the plastic bags. So why try to predict the future? Octavia writes, "Because making predictions is one way to give warning when we see ourselves drifting in dangerous directions. Because," she writes, "prediction is a useful way of pointing out safer, wiser courses. Because, most of all, our tomorrow is the child of our today. Through thought and deed, we exert a great deal of influence over this child, even though we can't control it absolutely. Best to think about it, though. Best to try to shape it into something good. Best to do that for any child. Our tomorrow is the child of our today." Because the best part of the flower communion is that after you bring a flower, at the end you come up and you take with you a different flower, symbolizing the richness that our diversity brings to our community, the richness that you receive from other people. That should be the end, shouldn't it? But we have a community blessing and a chalice extinguishing to do, and I have a little bit of a story about that community blessing. So it was 2 years ago on Flower Communion Sunday when we introduced an adapted version of the community blessing. This is if you're new, this is a little bit of inside baseball, but you'll learn a lot about the community. So we introduced this new adapted version. We didn't know exactly where that was going to lead us. We didn't think it was going to take 2 years. I'll tell you that much. But for various reasons it did. We put out surveys to find out how people felt about the adapted and the original, and then that led up to a vote. And in the vote, you were to vote for whether you wanted to keep alternating, because we've been alternating between these two versions for about 1.5 years, or whether you wanted to choose one and just say one the same every Sunday. So it was very clear that people wanted to choose one. 80% of people voted for that. However, it was pretty much 50-50 which one to choose. So the board empowered me to make the choice. And I have to tell you that initially, I didn't really like the original version. It was a congregant who approached me about adapting it and helped me adapt it, but I didn't really like the original. But as we alternated from week to week, I learned something. I found that there was deep wisdom in both of the original and the adapted version. So when I was empowered to choose what we would do going forward, I first thought, well, I'm just going to choose the adapted version. In large part because in that voting, every single new UU, everybody who's new to Unitarian Universalism in the last 5 years, those people all voted for the adapted, and our youth all voted for the adapted, or overwhelmingly voted. So I thought, if we're looking towards the future, we should do the adapted version. But I didn't really like that option either, because there's great wisdom in both. So we are going to say a combined version, inspired by David Bumbaugh's words, and this is what we're going to say every Sunday going forward, a version that lifts up all the wisdom from both the original and the adapted version. And I hope some of you like it, although I know I'm running the risk of making nobody happy. We'll just see how it goes. All right, let's do it. Please rise, and if you'll lead them. Oh, you can do, yeah, let's do that. All right. Are we ready? Yes. You want to read it first to make sure you agree? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's a you joke. Okay. All together now. This church is dedicated to the proposition that there is a unity beneath all our diversity, and by celebrating our differences, we grow together, honoring a journey that reaches beyond time, death, and the space between the stars. We pause now in silent witness to this, our shared covenant. And with the extinguishing of the chalice, I say our benediction words that we say every Sunday. Now that we've gathered together in this welcoming and inclusive spiritual home, let us go out into the world inspired to share our values. May it be so.